What do retirees actually spend their money on? Hear ye, hear ye, the PVC pipe trumpet of knowledge. And so we're going to go over this. Last night, I went into this heavily on the locals live stream. What we do a locals live stream every Wednesday at 8 p.m. Eastern time. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on a second. COVID. So if you want to join us on the locals live stream, it's in the Doobie-Dook, $5 a month. You can be an active participant. We'd love to have you there. And we're going to talk about this from the BLS, the monthly labor review. This is written in 1993 that talks about expenditures, spending by older consumers 1980 compared to 1990. And then we're going to take the BLS numbers that came out from 2021 and we're going to compare it to 2021. And then if we get time, we'll even look at my book, Relax and Retire, Chapter 1, where we compare 1984 to 1994 to 2004 to 2014. And they might even have an update on that later on in terms of 2024 numbers when they come out, probably 2026. All right. So what we're going to do here, and this, by the way, if you like this kind of data, which I love, oops, hold on a second. Here's the BLS, the monthly labor review, and you can see it goes back to 1946. Geographic concentration of trade-sensitive employment, why it's necessary to change, evaluating changes, and just tons of stuff here. It's just, I freaking love this stuff. I'm such a weirdo. All right, so what we're going to do here is we're going to look at our expenditures for two cohorts of people, 65 years old and over 75. And what we're assuming here is we're saying, look, they've interviewed thousands and thousands of people who are in this cohort who are between the ages of 65 and 74 in 1980. And then they interviewed thousands and thousands of people 10 years later who are over the age of 75. So you can say, look, these people transitioned to that age group, if that makes sense. Now, I don't think they did the same person. They'd say Josh Scanlon interviewed right here, and we're going to interview right there. I don't think they did that. It's not a pure longitudinal study. But, thousands of people are given the response of what their expenditures in. So you can assume these people transitioned to here, if that makes sense. Interesting, and these people had income in 1980 of $10,000, and they had expenditures of $10,700. So they actually spent more than their income came in, which is very, very interesting to me. On the other hand, this group of people who transitioned into retirement, who are over 75, actually spent less than their income. So their income went up by 52%, but their expenditures only went up by 40%. Isn't that interesting? So their spending went from $10,744 to $15,000 when they retired, essentially, a 40% increase. Their income went up by 52%. So they had a net, they're making more money than they're spending, which is good. As you can see here, their food went up from $2,300 to $2,600. So not a big expenditure, about 10% change. And this is in current dollars. All right, current dollars is not constant. That's not adjusted for inflation. These are actual dollars in 1990, actual dollars in 1980. This is the actual dollar amount they spent on food in 1980, the actual dollar amount they spent in food in 1990, and so on. So you can see, not a big change, only 10% change in their food expenditures, even though that's 10 years later. Very interesting there. The price of food is going down. You can give it to many different reasons, but there it is. Housing went from 3,221 to 5,208, a 62% increase in housing. And a lot of that has to do with utilities and property tax, because the vast majority of people, as that article stated, the vast majority of people over the age of 75 had no more mortgage. Their mortgage is completely paid off. All right, so housing, property tax, maintenance on your home, and utilities. In fact, you can see utilities down here, it went up by 10%. Not huge, but still, utilities, $1,500 a year is what they spend on utilities. And when you're only making $15,000 a year, that's a 10% cost on your utilities. So utilities are eating up a lot of the budget, that's for sure. A 10% commitment of your total budget to utilities. Transportation went up by, right here, from not much. Transportation only increased by 7.5% over the 10 years. And then the interesting, cash contributions went from $500 to $1,100, a greater than 100% increase in cash contributions. Cash contributions are just given to charities and things of that nature. So how did cash contributions increase by 100%, doubling, which is more than housing costs, more than food costs, all that, if they're running out of money? It didn't. So it's just stupid that people would say, oh, we're all running out of money, and yet our cash contributions went up by 100%. With that said, I got to keep in mind, these are averages. These aren't median averages. So the averages always skew to the higher end, always skew to the outliers. I just always say that. So this cash contribution, you could have one huge contribution that skewed it upwards. But given that we're talking thousands and thousands of survey results, at the end of the day, you can still make a pretty good assumption that most retirees' cash contributions increased. All right, so now let's fast forward to 2021. And we got the two cohorts again here. We got the cohort 65 to 74 and over 75. So you can see the income for the 65 to 74 went from $10,000 in 1980 to $63,000 40 years later. The income for this cohort in 1990 went from $15,000 to only $43,000. Interesting. The expenditures went from $15,000 to $45,000. So we are actually, this cohort now, unlike back here when they had a surplus, actually has a deficit in their expenditures. Their expenditures are more than their income. How are they making that work? Well, they have money to put aside. That's just that simple. They saved. But here these guys right here, they were spending more than was coming in, and now you fast forward here, they're spending, their income is much more than is coming in. They got about $7,000 surplus, these guys right here. Just something I thought was, I don't have any reason for that. I just thought it was interesting that literally it flipped. So these guys were spending more, these guys were spending less on income, and then flipped in 2021. Very interesting. So now we go to the cost of their food. Food went from $26.13 in 1990 to $56.69. That's basically a doubling, about a doubling over the course of 40 years. Again, the price of food, now food represents 12.4% of their total budget, whereas before is 17%. I cannot stress this enough. The price of food, in terms of how much you expend for your budget, has gone down significantly. It was 17% of your total budget was going to food. Now it's just 12.4%. That's a huge win for retirees, a huge win. That means you have less money to spend on food, more money to spend on other stuff. We go to housing. Housing used to be 33% of a budget, and now it's gone up to 37%. And one of the big reasons for that, and it's something that actually does concern me a little bit, is that more and more retirees have a mortgage now. In fact, I looked at the data set from the 2021 Consumer Expenditure Survey, and whereas before only like 10% of retirees had a mortgage, now it's 52%, at least as of 2021. So if you owned a house, about more than half had a mortgage, whereas before the vast majority had no mortgage. And that is a concern to me, 100%, because that means you're drawing more on your income in order to pay the bills because you have a mortgage. So that's a big deal to me. So we got to really be cognizant of making sure that mortgage is paid off. Now, you can make an argument, but the interest rates are so low, and I 100% that's a good argument. I talk to people all the time. They got 2.5, 3 1/8. I'm like, you're getting 5% money market now. How do you, you're getting, the bank is paying you to borrow money from them essentially. I get that, but still, having a mortgage is something we want to shy away from if we can. So while the cost of eating food has gone down relative to our income or expenditures, the cost of our housing has gone up relative to our expenditures. Transportation was a big one. So transportation was 15% of our expenditures back in the old days, and now it's about 12%. And this is for people over the age of 75, by the way, over the age of 75. It's about 15% for people who are 65 to 74. So transportation has gone up. About 12% gone down as a part of our budget. Transportation used to be 15% of our budget in 1990. It has gone down to only 12%. And remember, transportation also considers the actual buying and leasing of a new or used to you vehicle. So if you don't buy or lease a new or used vehicle, your transportation costs should be lower. And you can control your transportation costs if you don't want to drive around that much and all that. But check this out. So right here, cash contributions were $11.41, and they represented 7.5% of our total budget of our expenditures in 1990. Cash contributions here are 9% now, $4,000 of our total expenditures. 9% for cash contributions. Again, that's not likely to happen if people are running out of money. And you can see right here, cash contributions for people who are 65 to 74, only 5.1% are represented in our cash contribution budget. Isn't that interesting? I think so. It kind of goes back again, is that we have a significant decline in food, a significant increase in cash contributions. Got interrupted there for a second. Wifey was calling me. I wasn't answering the phone, and I got in trouble. Anyway, so where were we? So, and again, cash contributions up significantly from where they were in 1990, up significantly in 2021, almost double the percentage of our expenditures as a 65 to 74-year-old cohort. So you can see the cash contributions going up, the food going down, housing costs are going up, and again, that's simply, a lot of it is attributed to more people have a mortgage. Transportation costs are going down as well. So pre-retirees, and this could be some retirees too, probably a mix of both. Same expenditures for food, again, way down from where it was back here. I mean, my goodness, back here, food was like almost 20% of expenditures for this group of people. I mean, look at that. Food has gone down significantly from 1980 to 2021. Housing costs have gone up again because of mortgage. Transportation is up. It's down, from 19, basically 20% here to about 15% here. And the cash contributions roughly about the same, about 5%. So you can see a big increase in cash contributions once you hit the age of 75 and above. And I just think partly has to do with a lot of people are widows and widowers. And like, yeah, I got this money, I don't really need it. Me and Missy, we're not going to take vacations anymore because, she's dead or she's older or something like that. So I'm just going to start giving more and more money away. As you get older, you get happier. Anyway, and I talk a lot about this in my book here, right here, Relax and Retire. I'm just made a big old mess. Oh boy, making a big old mess. I am the caveman financial planner. And I show you in the spending that we got here, and I'll show it to you. I use right here. So this chart right here, total expenditures by cohort, you can see 45 years old, 55, 65, and over 70 years old. The average increase was about 0.88% a year for spending from 45 to 75. Now, that once you hit 65 and such, your spending, it doesn't really change all that much once you hit 65 and above, but it certainly is much, much less than you would expect in terms of, hey, we're adjusting this for inflation for the last 30 years. It's just not like that. Again, the bulk of your expenses in retirement are going to be your housing, 100%, man. Even if you don't have a mortgage, the bulk of your expenses no longer is going to be on food. Transportation is going to be a big one, and the big one is, frankly, healthcare. Another big one is healthcare, and so you got to make sure, and we know for a fact what your healthcare is going to be. It's basically $500 a month once you're on Medicare. Depending on where you live. If you live in a blue state, it's more. If you live in a red state, it's probably less. But I was talking to a lady the other day, she's on a YouTube live stream. She said she's only paying like $89 a month in Oakland County, Michigan for her for Medicare supplemental policy. So we know she's got $175 roughly for Part B, roughly $50 for Part D. Her Med Supp is $89 a month, and she's freaking happy as a clam. So anyway, that's good stuff there. Love your thoughts on this. This is expenditures in retirement for people. Those big five: healthcare, transportation, housing, food. In this case, we look at cash and contributions as well. It's just as another side note to let you know that people aren't running out of money. All right, God bless. Love your thoughts.